Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tornado turns in again.
And thank you, Tom Patrick. This crystal ball ready to go.
Alright, well.
Well, we almost, I thought we were going to become a two-person show a couple days ago.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I think my friends tried to spike my drink with something. Because, I went to a appearance on Saturday, and I swung by my friend's house on the way home. And, of course, my friend and his wife, who are very immature and morbid, that's why I'm friends with them, they told me, they were like, we got the best idea in the world for your funeral. Thanks. Wow, thanks. What a great idea. They're like, we're going to get a bunch of midgets to carry your casket. And I'm like, oh, shit. Damn it, I'm not going to be around to see it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, but we'll die before you do. I'm like, that's bullshit. This is the greatest funeral ever, and you can't, renege on it now.
Mm-hmm.
I go home that night, I start feeling like shit. I'm like, they spiked my drink with something so they could go through with this. But I had a 24-hour fog on Sunday. I was so lethargic, I was so tired. And then Monday, in my infinite wisdom, what do you do when you don't feel well? You push yourself even harder.
Yeah.
So I got up in the morning, don't feel good. I said, let me do 2 miles. I did 2 miles, didn't feel great. I was at work. I was sitting in my home office. I was shivering. I was freezing cold. I had a hoodie on in mid-July. What do I do at lunch? I do 3 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I barely broke a sweat. Oh, after work, what am I going to do? Well, let me do 4 miles. I was doing the 4 miles. I was a mile into it. I'm like, I don't feel good. I hit those other 3 miles. I walked into the house. The next thing I know, it's 2 hours later, and I'm on the bed. And I don't remember getting here, but apparently I walked upstairs and I crashed for 2 hours. And then maybe that was the rest my body needed. I don't know. Because then Tuesday, I'm like, someone's like, how do you feel? I'm like, foul mouth and ornery. They're like, oh, good, you're feeling better. Tuesday, I did my miles, or 8.5 miles, and then I did 10 rounds. And then last night, I did another 7.5 to 8 miles, and I did 10 round circuit boxing, which I'll alternate between shadow boxing, the old ski machine, which is a high heart rate, elliptical type machine. It's all manual, and then I'll do on the heavy bag. And I'm like, you know what? I ought to do the lat, the 500 punches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I ought to just do a lat round. I do the bag, which is only 3 rounds. So I did 3 ladders, 1,500 punches in 9 minutes. With new 20-ounce gloves on. My arms told me you were done. So, what are you doing all this for? My guy got a tank. They're going to trade for it. You get a trade for it. That's the one. I'm like, yes.
Nice. Well, you get to tell one of your favorite stories. Tom and I have heard a few times, but our guest tonight has not. James Hergott, we're going to call him in about 26 minutes. 25. It's 9:05 according to my time. And we're going to talk to him about his creation called Radical Body Transformations, RBT for short. And he has a whole program and does pageants and everything like that. He's big into bodybuilding, but he also does a lot of documentary type stuff. So we'll talk about that too. We're going to have him on in a little while. And we got to kind of do a speed round before we get him on to talk about all the events and news. I did good on the fantasy stuff. Not as well as I wanted to do, but I picked a bunch of fights right, and I did the 2 cards on FanDuel, and I had Dos Anjos on one and Fiziev on the other one. None of them in the MVP slot, but I picked right in the top finisher, which I think was in the top 100. But I picked Cody Brundage over Trayshawn Gore for the MVP position there, because I did notice that Trayshawn had very little experience compared to Brundage, and I think he was the runner-up of one of the Ultimate Fighter shows. So that was a great pick. He got knocked out in the first round. Cody did his job there at middleweight, and The one I really regret not picking was Kennedy and Chuckwu, because I analyzed that fight and I pretty much knew he was going to win, but I did pick him and then I changed it for some reason. I think I changed it to Ronnie Lawrence, who was my only bad loss, and what a bad loss that was in the first fight. Said Yakub Kakramanov basically schooled him the entire fight. Lawrence was having all he could do just to stand up a couple times, and just kept getting taken back down and grounded and pounded. And wound up surviving all 3 rounds, which was good for the points, but not good for the winning card. I was like 100 points behind the winner because of that one fight. I also picked Antonina Shevchenko on one of my cards. She didn't get the knockout, but she did get the split decision, so that worked out over Courtney Casey in the 4th fight. Kennedy and Chuckwu got his TKO in the 3rd round, but scored a lot of points over Carl Roberson on the way. So that would have been a good pick if you did have him. David Onama, I did have him on one of my winning cards. He beat Garrett Armfield by arm triangle choke in 3 minutes and 13 seconds into the 2nd round. And Jamie Malarkey, another guy I picked, just based on, I think I had one guy on one card and the other guy on the other card, and it didn't really punish me for Michael Johnson losing that one by split decision, which I thought was a joke. I thought he deserved at least a draw. I think he did a lot better than they gave him credit for. But Jamie Malarkey had some moments, and then he just kind of gassed out towards the end. Malarkey, that's Joe Biden's favorite fighter, you know. Lightweight win for Malarkey, so he was cheering, I'm sure. Ayman Zahabi at bantamweight was another fighter. I definitely decided not to go with this fight because I figured it was going to be a decision, and it was. Ricky Tercios went the distance. And then my boy, Chase Sherman. I did not have him in the MVP slot, but he was kind of an MVP of the night. He kind of looks like me, too. A younger version, but no gray hairs. But, yeah, Chase Sherman, heavyweight. And he had a classic interview after the fight because they had him going in there with a 3-fight losing streak, and Jared Vanderaa, his opponent, also had a losing streak going. One more fight, 4 fights, and Chase had a 3-fight losing streak. So he basically admitted, like, I haven't done shit in the UFC, he said, after the fight, so this was good to do. And I think he was losing on the scorecards going into the final round, but he mentioned to the fans watching at home that he felt like he was throwing the crisper shots, which could be true. I mean, Vanderaa was kind of stumbling around a little bit, and both guys seemed really tired. It was kind of a shit show watching the 3rd round, but 3 minutes and 10 seconds in, Chase Sherman stunned him with one punch and then followed it up perfectly with the string of knockout shots. And boom, TKO. Jared, all his work in the first 2 rounds were wiped out. Did not leave it to the judges, Chase Sherman. I had a feeling. He was a big underdog, too, so, if you picked him, you had a lot of room to pick the bigger guys who were more expensive. He was like $10. It was a minimum of 8 on that lineup. And then Said Nurmagomedov, he was a big expensive fighter, but he did not get the finish over Douglas Silva de Andrade. Kai Baralho got the unanimous decision as well over Armin Petrosian. I picked him on one of my cards, and then the other 2 picks I had was Dos Anjos on one card and Fiziev on the other. And unfortunately, I had Dos Anjos on my highest scoring card, not in the main event slot, and kind of screwed my chances of getting into the top 10. But Fiziev won on the other card, and that made it. The card was not winning until that point. And once Fiziev won, I got over the line. So I ended up winning like $30, only putting in 16, and I got 30 on top of that. So that was a pretty good week for me. And then the other one, I think I got it in too late on DraftKings. So the other cards were all, the other options were all taken, so I ended up only doing like a $3 lineup contest, and I won $5. So overall, it was a winning situation on all my picks, all my lineups. You know, it wasn't a go to the bank and make a deposit type winning week. It worked out. So I got a little bit more change to scatter around for this weekend's big fight. Brian Ortega versus Yadier Rodriguez. And I was just watching a clip of Yadier Rodriguez back in the day when the UFC mat was completely different. And he landed, I don't even know who it was against, but they showed this unreal upward elbow that he threw on this guy while he was looking at the mat. And he knocked him out with an elbow that just came out of nowhere. You didn't need something like that to battle Brian Ortega, but both guys have been in a little bit of a couple of wars for themselves. Ortega comes in at 15-2, Yair Rodriguez 13-3.
Zombie, Reg.
Was it? Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
It was. It looked like a skinny guy. But yeah, great shot. Yair Rodriguez also was in a bit of a controversy a few years ago, where he left the UFC or quit or something like that. Got fired, and then they needed him for a fight, so they had to bring him back. And he has taken full advantage of his second opportunity there, because there has been no talk about cutting him since. So, great fighter there. Michelle Watterson in the co-main event. They call her the Karate Hottie. She is 18-9.
I remember her from that bully beatdown job.
Yeah. 18-9 at strawweight, fighting Amanda Lemos, who has 11 wins, just 2 losses, and 1 draw. So that's going to be a tough test for Watterson. And we got Jiang Liang Li, 18-7 at welterweight, fighting Muslim Salikov, 18-2. We get Matt Schnell, 15-6 at flyweight, fighting Sue Mudaerji, 16-4. A lot of lighter weight fighters on this one. Featherweights in the 8th fight of the night. Shane Burgos, 14-3, fighting Charles Jourdain, who's 13-4-1. My name is Lauren Murphy. He's 15-5 at flyweight. I'm never going to let that one go. I don't think, what's his name, Daniel Cormier is going to interview her after the fight. I bet you that. Miesha Tate is her opponent, 19-8. And this one's been put off a little bit, but and Miesha had a tough time out her last time, but I think she's going to hop on the comeback trail with this one. Lauren's got a lot of experience, and she can outclass some of the less experienced fighters, but I just do not see her hanging with Miesha Tate. Just doesn't have the power.
You know, but it's been about 10 years since we had Misha on as our guest.
Yeah, now I've listened to that interview a couple times since then. I'm always impressed how that went. That was a pretty good interview. And you know, it kind of sucks that we've gotten away from getting a lot of fighters on the show. I don't think I can remember the last time we had an actual UFC fighter on the show. Whether it's primarily because we've been kind of blacklisted due to my ZionSucks.com stuff, I don't know, but you know, I could work a little bit harder at getting another one. Anyway, middle of the card here, 6th fight of the night, Punahele Soriano, 8-2 at middleweight, fighting Dalcha Lungiambula, is 11-4. Big middleweight fight there. Probably going to factor into the knockouts. Bantamweights. Jack Shore, 16-0, fighting Ricky Simon, 19-3 at bantamweight. And Shore, I'm not sure when the last time he fought, but he definitely was on my lineup. I like the undefeated guys. Okay, Bill Algeo at featherweight is 15-6, coming in against 11-3 Herbert Burns. Featherweight bout. Dustin Jacoby at light heavyweight. Biggest guys on the card. The heaviest guys on the card, light heavyweight. Dustin Jacoby is 17-5-1. He's fighting Da Un Young, who is 15-2-1. And middleweight Dwight Grant, 11-5, fighting Dustin Stoltzfus, who is 13-4 at middleweight. And then the first fight of the night, lots of experience in this female fight. Jessica Penne, 14-5 against Emily Ducote, who is 11-6. So as far as the main event, I really like Brian Ortega. He's a tough cat, but he's just been in some wars. Yadier Rodriguez just came off a fight last year with Max Holloway, lost by unanimous decision. Beat Jeremy Stevens before that by unanimous decision in a fight that was redone because of an accidental eye poke in the prior fight. Chan Sung Young also before that was in a 5-round fight with Yadier and lost by KO. Chan Sung Young in the 5th round with 1 second left. Yikes. I want to say I remember that one, but it's kind of fuzzy in my head. That's 2018. That was November 2018. I'm sure I saw it. It's not coming to mind. And then before that, Frankie Edgar was his only loss, dating back to his 4th fight in another league where he got knocked out in the first round. So I like Yadier. I really do. I think he's going to pull it off in this one. It's probably going to go 4 or 5, though.
That he's going back to his strong point, because he always had the jiu-jitsu down, but then he really wanted to work on his striking and jiu-jitsu. He said he knew he should have got Alex out, but he just wasn't as sharp. So this will be interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of my mind.
They both lost to Max Holloway. And actually, Max stopped a huge win streak for Brian, beating a real who's who of the UFC before that, dating back to his first appearance in January of 2014. He's beaten Thiago Tavares, Diego Brandao, Clay Guida, Leonardo Carneiro, all in that stretch, and Frankie Edgar. That's an interesting common opponent math situation, because he knocked out Frankie Edgar, even though Edgar beat Yadier Rodriguez. But we've seen so many different versions of Frankie Edgar. I don't know if we can really reliably use that as a measuring stick. But I like Yadier. I'm gonna pick him. I don't know if it's gonna be knockout, but I'd say it's at least gonna go to the 4th round. Because both guys have iron shins. Do not get knocked out a lot. 2 out of 3 of Rodriguez's losses have been knockouts. 7 of his 13 stoppages, 7 of his 13 wins. Frankie KO'd Yadier, and Ortega KO'd Frankie Edgar. So that's really the common opponent math. Some people do. That's going on there. Alright, so, co-main event. I'm going to say the Karate Hottie doesn't do so hot. The girl with only 2 losses, Amanda Lemos, she's going to take care of business, I think, at strawweight. Again, I don't know about knockout with the strawweights, but maybe a submission. Maybe a submission. We'll keep an eye on it. Alright, so boxing. We got a big boxing story with the whole Hasim Rahman Jr. fight. It was quite an interesting press conference. From what I saw from the video clips, Rahman Jr. was there, and his father was there too. And the father was talking so much that Jake Paul kept trying to remind him that he's not fighting at all. It's his son that's fighting. But afterwards, Hasim Rahman Jr. actually ended up saying quite a bit about something that hasn't been widely reported. Apparently there's a rehydration clause in the contract. And Rahman Jr. has not fought lower than 211 pounds in his entire pro career. But he has fought at a lower weight in the amateurs. But anyway, the contracted maximum for the 8-round fight is 200 pounds. So that's what they have to come in at weigh-in for. But apparently Paul put in a contract, an item, where Rahman is saying he stacked the deck. Those are his quotes. And he says, don't forget you stacked the deck. You try to bring me down to cruiserweight, then put a rehydration clause in the contract. Don't forget about none of that. Don't forget none of that. The offer was take it or leave it. Don't forget that's take it or leave it. That was take it or leave it. And I'm not making no excuses, Rahman said. I'm telling the truth because you leaving it out. Let the people know. Let the people know. You always talking about, oh, he's bigger than me. Oh, he's a heavyweight and all this stuff and all that. That's cut because we come in a cruiserweight. And the problem is that I guess the deal is the next day, the morning of the fight, Rahman can only gain 15 pounds between the weigh-in and that next morning weigh-in for the rehydration.
So they want him to weigh in at 200, and the next morning he can weigh no more than 215. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But the key thing that you need to remember is it's not that bad because, yeah, there's the weigh-in the morning of the fight, but he can weigh whatever the hell he wants come fight time. So it's just like that 24-hour, less than 24-hour period. He's stuck in that window that he has to be in.
So you look at it like that. See, here's what people tend to forget: when you're a heavyweight, you're not cutting weight.
Right.
So, for argument's sake, like say, you know, they were just going to fight at heavyweight and Rahman weighed tonight at 211. By the time he steps in the ring, he might only be 5-6 pounds heavier because he's not draining himself to make weight. You know, he's like, I'm a heavyweight. You know, as long as I'm over 200 pounds, I can be 200, I can be 400. Doesn't really matter. You know, so it's not like it's like you got to suck down to get to 211 or 215. So if you suck down and you're normal, and like I said, I don't really follow Rahman that much. I know he had the loss to Kenzie Morrison. But if say his normal walk around weight is 220, and like I said, I don't know this, and then say his training weight, you know, is 211. Now he's got to suck down 10 pounds. Yeah, okay. But honestly, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to put on, you know, less than 15 the morning after. Yeah, you're dehydrated at 200. You get a quick drink, you eat something light, you know, that night, take another shit, wake up the next morning, go do it again, step on the scale, you should be fine. And then you can eat something hard. You can have a big breakfast. You can really hydrate then.
Yeah, it was funny too because Rahman Jr. made a little snide remark about, you know, going back to what he used to do in the amateurs, and he said, you know, Jake Paul is basically an amateur anyway. So that was good. Good little jab before the fight. Anyway, got to get to boxing real quick. We had a big Saturday. Derek Chisora beating Kubrat Pulev. It was a big upset, I believe, in the heavyweight ranks. Frank Martin beating Jackson Marinez. Cesar Francis over Raimundo Beltran. Raymond Cardenas over Michelle Banquez. And Mark Magsayo losing to Ray Vargas. I have this taped. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but apparently Vargas was down early and came back, from what I read. So great job by him. Got the job done. We had a draw between Israel Madrimov and Michael Soro, Michelle. And Brandon Figueroa beating Carlos Castro. That was a good one. And then I don't know how to pronounce that one. So let's get that. This weekend, we're not going to go through the big list of, you know, the whole Jesus fight of the week and Uzo's got to go because we have our guest on in about 6 minutes here, 5 minutes. Lamont Roach versus Angel Rodriguez, though. That's on the main page, so we got an Angel fight of the week right there. We got Ricardo Rafael Sandoval fighting David Jimenez. I don't know why BoxRec doesn't even put the weights on here for these on the front page. But Lennox Clark versus Mark Heffron. And the big one, I saw the video of the stare down. Ryan Garcia versus Javier Fortuna. And you got basically a short, stocky guy up against a tall, skinny guy in this one. So it's going to be one of them styles make fights type of battles, and should be entertaining. We got Hamza Shiraz versus Francisco Emmanuel Torres, and Sina Agbeko versus Winfred Harris Jr. And there is a halfway decent matchup on Friday night. Arnold Barboza Jr. versus Danielito Zorrilla. And we've got a couple big ones coming up on the 30th. Here's one that's going to be interesting. A guy I've talked about quite a bit in past shows. Frances Barthélemy. Seen him in action myself out in Vegas. And he's fighting Gary Antoine Russell on the 30th. And then one that I saw Tony Lewis, our former guest, post about the other day.
Yeah.
One of the sports guys in his area, Canada, posted a video, and Tony pasted it onto his page and posted it. But Tony Lewis is fighting Steve Claggett in an all-Canada battle, and boy, this sports guy was really excited about that one. He's predicting it'll be a fabulous fight, and there was a little bit of controversy in Tony's last fight. Thought he got the decision, but kind of got screwed there. It was a televised fight too, so hopefully this one turns out better for him. We'll be rooting for him, and it's one of those guys we should probably try to get back on the show. I'm sure he'd love it. Last time we had him on, I believe it was shortly after or shortly before his father had to step in and stop the fight. And it was very controversial. Crazy stuff. Anyway, let's connect with our guest. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Alright. Participants. Okay, add. James Hergott is our guest. He is. Are we waiting for us at this point? And here we go. Radical Body Transformations is the program, if you're going to look it up. RBT Life is the hashtag, I believe, or the @ on Twitter. That's where I connected with them. James!
Hi, this is James Hergott of Radical Body Transformations.
Oh, there you go.
Please leave your name and number at the sound of the tone, and I'll be sure to get back to you.
After leaving a message, you can hang up or press pound for more options.
James! Rabble rousing Rich Bergeron here, trying to connect. We may have to figure something else out. I'll give you a try back in a minute. Alright. Let's give him 5 minutes, I guess.
So I guess waiting, just mentioned that it was 13 years ago the other day that we lost the Lakers to our guy. I believe it's 13 years.
Yeah, actually, somebody just posted the after fight interview he did where he retired. I remember that clearer than anything.
I remember clear as day.
He had a big cut on his lip, and he just looked horrible in there. Unfortunately, it was a really, really bad last fight.
You know what? I was talking to a guy. He was Philadelphia heavyweight. Now he's a competitive eater. His name's Dave Brunelli. I covered a few of his fights, and when I first did my tribute article to God, he commented was that his last fight, and he goes,
Oh,
you could tell from the beginning he was shell of himself.
yeah, we're trying to call you on the other phone.
Okay, yeah, if you could call me on that, that'd be great.
All right, we'll connect with you in a minute.
Okay.
All right, well, there was James. Yeah, that's it's one of them tragic situations. We still don't know what really happened with his death. You know, it was just a whole crazy situation, but I wish he had gone out on a better note.
Yeah, very, very suspicious.
All right, calling James. We need some dialing music. It's not connecting. There you go.
Did the other phone not work?
No, it works. It's just that.
Hello?
Yeah, we got you. I just had to call you on this one because this is how we connect to the show. So we got all the other co-hosts on too. Tom Padgett and Tony Pennical are co-hosts.
What's up, Jake?
Good evening, sir. Hey, it's really hard to hear you. Are you guys able to contact me on the other phone so I can run the other phone through my car?
Okay. Yeah, we'll try that. I'll have to use my cell phone and this system, so it's going to be...
Did it not work?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why don't I call? Can I call you on it? I'll call you on.
It's a 702 number you'd have to call me on to get into this system.
Oh. The number didn't work?
No, it works. We're on live now.
Okay. All right. No, I was just trying. Sorry about that. I was no, but the other phone I never heard ring. It didn't ring or blink or anything. So.
Well, it's working now. Can you hear us all right?
Okay. All right. We'll use this phone. It's hard for me to hear you guys, but I'll make the best of it.
Okay. I'll yell if I have to.
All right.
All right. So just give us a little bit of a rundown of what you're all about and what your brand is. I know it's Radical Body Transformations, but just give us a little bit of a resume for yourself.
Yeah. So I've been a filmmaker for the past 20 years. Doing film and TV work for different productions, including a lot of MMA related stuff. And then a little bit later in my life, I did a competitive bodybuilding contest as sort of a lark. And I won that contest. It was a natural contest. So it was kind of a fun thing. And I decided to start a show about transformations and show the story in between people's before and afters. And that became Radical Body Transformations. It got picked up by Amazon Prime in the U.S. And I partnered with this guy, Anthony Lawley. He's a real estate mogul out in New York, and he had lost 135 pounds. We just kind of have blown things up since then. We've had a number of online contests and different things, and we now have a stage. The last one being on June 3rd, and
at the Toronto Film, or sorry, the Toronto, and it was a really successful event, and it's a very powerful thing because you see people changing their lives, and like dramatically, like people lose as much as like 400 or 500 pounds. But of course, that's not your typical situation, and normally there's a lot of reasons that people get out. And it's really dramatic, and when we have the stage event or the TV show, we get into the story of why they've transformed and what they've overcome.
Awesome. And you got a little bit of an interest in mixed martial arts, is that correct?
Yeah, well, before I even started Radical Body Transformations, I did a number of projects to do with mixed martial arts. And I think the first one was really the MMA Worldwide, which was a magazine back in the day, connected with Capital Magazine. And we traveled from gym to gym, and like I'm talking like MMA gyms, and kind of it's a reality show filming the journey along the way. And from there, I ended up going to Iraq to film the first fight in a active war zone, and I guess that was 2008 in Mosul, and it was like basically we put on fights for the troops. We were the first to kind of go into an active war zone and put on fights.
Awesome.
And that was a documentary, and then I did a George St. Pierre documentary called The Strike the Truth. So a bunch of things MMA related.
Great. And what was your favorite part about that experience? You know, mixing with those type of athletes.
Well, it was always interesting to be around the fighters because a lot of them are actually really calm people. And it's kind of crazy. I went to a Modog show in Vancouver, and they had a bunch of major fighters up there, including Theodore and a bunch of guys, just top heavyweights and stuff like that they were kind of negotiating with at the time. And I remember we were in this bar, and I walked out front, and this fight broke out front of it, and they started to actually go into the building, and I was thinking, these guys have no idea what they're walking into. So there's a lot of kind of fun situations like that. And of course, seeing the hard work that goes into the dedication, the training, and stuff like that was really inspirational. So it was a lot of fun, and I like being around hard-working people that are kind of no BS. So I guess that was a cool part of doing all that stuff.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, that reminds me of we did a Battle of the Badges event in Boston years ago with a lot of celebrity boxers in attendance, and one of them was Mickey Ward, and he and I actually broke up a fight at the bar for the after party. There's a lot of Boston versus New York situation going on at the event itself, so I think a little bit of that spilled over to the bar, a little bit of the rivalry. I looked over as I'm pushing one kid off another, and there's Mickey Ward right in the middle of it. Great, I got good company over here. So tell us a little bit about how'd you get into the documentaries and stuff like that, and the film stuff.
Which documentary?
All of it. Like, well, how did you get started doing that?
Which documentary? Sorry, you just kind of cut out because of the bad reception.
Okay, I'm just talking about all of it in general. Like, how did you get into it and involved in it?
Oh, like documentary. Okay, well, I started out as I had a dream of becoming a filmmaker. I grew up in a small town in Canada, and I had these dreams, and I started working out when I was 16. I was like a really skinny kid, and I changed my body really dramatically in a short period of time. And I guess that hit home with me, and I really felt that I was empowered, and that the things I focused on, I could make them a reality. So these dreams suddenly didn't didn't seem so far-fetched, and I met this producer. His name was Hergott, and he produced Home Alone and those like big John Hughes movies and stuff. And he kind of took me under his wing at 21, and we started writing some scripts together. He saw something in me, and he kind of mentored me into the business. And I took a gamble and moved down to California, and I did a around 2004 called All That I Need. It was a real low-budget film, but I managed to get into theaters. And then from there, in that, I saw that a lot of the people that were going to the theaters were like teenagers, and I thought, well, I better pick something that's more of an... So I felt that it was, at the time, there wasn't anything to do, any films to do with like UFC or anything like that, and I was a big fan thing, and I thought, well, you know, I want to do a movie about this, and that's kind of how I got started with doing documentaries and stuff about MMA. Is I just thought it was exciting and interesting, and there was a fan base there, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do about.
Yeah, I can remember back when we started the website, which was like 2006, 2007, I think. Somewhere along those years. And what I was struck by...
I met the around 2006.
Yeah. What I was amazed by when I first started was the accessibility of the fighters. You know, as far as a pro athlete, there is no other sport where you can get that close to the fighters as an amateur journalist. Like, and it's still like that to some extent. Did you find that same thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, back then you had the MMA.TV, the Underground, and everybody was on. Rogan was on there. The fighters were on there. Dana White was posting on there.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was kind of connecting. I mean, I actually got a meeting with Dana then, like 2006 and stuff. So it was very accessible, and you know, I knew that it. I thought it should be, because I was a huge fan, but I never knew that it would go as crazy as it ended up going.
Yeah, it turns out as the part of the preliminary part of my science investigation back in 2004-ish, the security guy at Science that was dealing with me actually promised me an interview with Dana White if I came out to meet with them in Vegas. But I refused because, you know, I thought I had the goods on the guys. So who knows what would have happened if I had taken that meeting. I don't regret it, though. No regrets. But anyway, what do you have any upcoming projects or anything you're working on with the film stuff?
Yeah, so I have another stage event in October, on October 7th in Toronto, and it's really cool because there's people that come from, well, all over the U.S. to compete in this transformation thing, and then there's people from other countries that come out even. So it's very cool to have that, and we're working on season 3 of Radical Body Transformation, and some other stuff I have in the works as well. So the transformation thing is really what I'm doing right now, simply because we've got, it's just really crazy stories of people over, you know, very difficult odds. In many ways, it's very similar to the MMA because it's, you know, covering these wrong, I guess you could say, and seeing people and the human condition and seeing people overcome difficulties. So in this, it's more term thing where people are changing over several months than an individual fight, but it's a very gratifying thing because, you know, people will say to you, why being part of this, and you know, there's people that were very unhealthy, and all of a sudden now they can get on their knees and play with stuff like that. So I guess that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. Have you ever met Diamond Dallas Page? The wrestler?
What's that?
Have you ever met Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestler?
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. The dealings with of him or whatever, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The DDP yoga, yeah. We had him on the show probably 6 or 7 years ago now, at least. But it was right around the time where he started that, and one of his first viral videos went absolutely nuts on the interwebs there, and it was about a guy who was walking around with crutches before he started the DDP yoga. And when I heard about your situation, it made me think of that immediately. And people love to see that. They just love to see that somebody that's down and out and not feeling good can just start slow and make such an incredible turnaround like that. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but wow, the guy was running at the end of it. Yeah.
And well, and seeing these things like up close and personal, it's really wild. I mean, the guy that won the last show, like, we were giving away some pretty cool prizes. Like, we gave this chap $3,000. A doctor that would give like a loose skin surgery, because a lot of people lose lots of weight. They have to have their excess skin cut.
Right.
Guy that won it, he lost something like 170 pounds, but he's 63 years old and he's like jacked now. And you know, he can play with his grandkids. His all his, like, he had to be on all different types of medications for his health, and he doesn't need it anymore. His blood levels are. And then we've had people that have been addicts, like, on the street. Like, we had one girl that she was homeless for 12 years and addicted. And now she's, like, completely turned around her life. She gotten off heroin, is a productive member of society that's she's working in the medical field, like as a nurse assistant.
Wow.
And she's undergone this transformation. And we have stories like this. Another girl, she was like sex trafficked, and she was addicted to drugs, and then on drugs she got into a car accident. Her son, who was in the car, died, and she was charged with manslaughter and went to jail for 8 years. Gained weight, was still addicted, got off of all that stuff, completely turned her life around. This is like over and over again. So it's funny because I'll have people come to me and, well, I can't get fit because, you know, I have bad knees, or I have this, or I have that, and it's like, you know, you don't know the stories I've heard. So it's kind of like, sometimes it's demoralizing to them because they want to have an excuse, because they don't want to go through it.
Right.
But I won't let them have an excuse, because I've heard every single story. I know people have had way worse knees, and they use the pool and other things to lose the weight. So, you know, there's so with this, anybody can really get fit.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of some of those weight loss shows they have on like TLC, where the people are like 500 pounds and above, and they have to get down to a certain weight just to get the surgery, where they get the stomach stapling and stuff. And those people, oh my God, some of them, tremendous stories. Some people just give up at the end, but I mean, the majority of the ones that they highlight do pretty good with it.
Well, I've seen people that don't even have the stomach stapling that lose the weight, and really, like, whether you have that surgery or not, it comes down to you have to change your lifestyle. It's actually very similar to addiction.
Right.
And it's a difficult thing, but if you get it right, it really changes your life, and you can really see, like, the human body has an incredible ability to recuperate. You know, even if you abuse it, and people's lives can really change around 100% if they're dedicated to it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to let Tony tell you a story about his own radical body transformation. We've heard it 100 times, but we don't mind hearing it again because you need to hear it.
Hey, James. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I met Rich about 15 years ago through a professional boxer who shared an article, and I realized that I almost fought Rich in the College Boxing Nationals in 1998. I recognized his name because I had scouted everybody in my weight class. And we had some common opponents. We would tell stories. And we were both fighting at the time at 185 for me, I was naturally walking around about 200 when I was 18, 19 years old. And I would usually fight around 178, 180. That was my natural when I got in shape weight. And our coach, who just passed away a few months ago, well-known, world-known, he comes up to me, and my junior year, I was 20 years old. I had just come off a pretty serious knee surgery. And running was hard. Jumping rope was hard. Cardio was hard. So I was just getting my body back to where I was getting, used to doing those activities again, and it was coming up to fight time. Coach goes, what do you weigh? I started that semester at about 198, 188. He goes, all right, I'm going to put your fight at 190. Okay, that's fine, going to 190. Next week, he said, what do you weigh? I'm like, about 185. He goes, okay, I'm going to put your fight at heavyweight. I'm like, wait, I lost 3 pounds and I'm moving up a weight class? No, that doesn't make sense. But, okay, I put some rocks in my pocket, fought it weeks in a row. What do you weigh this week? 179, coach. I'm going to have you fight at 180. Oh, shit. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Then we're getting ready for the regionals. Regionals is on a Friday. That Tuesday, we're working out. We're finishing our workout. And he goes, you look like you're getting in pretty good shape. I said, thanks, coach. He goes, what did you weigh out tonight? I'm like, around 178-ish. Can you make 165? I started doing some math. Math in my mind. I just finished the workout, so I'm like, I have an empty stomach, and I sweat a lot, So I'm not even into walking around weight right now, and I'm about 178. And he wants me to lose 13 pounds in approximately, I don't know, about 60 hours. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said, let's do it. And for the next 60 plus hours, I drained every morsel that I could get out of my body. We were driving to the weigh-in, and he goes, spit in a cup. I had nothing. I had no spit. I stepped on that. Well, the only thing I wore was what God gave me when I was born. I was going to shave my head because I thought that might give me an extra quarter of a pound. And I made the weight, barely. And I ended up losing that fight to a guy I had beaten because I was so weak. I suffered a knockdown with about 15 seconds to go. And then for regionals, they go, listen, we got a spot at the regionals. And I said, oh, God, for the love of God, please don't say it's going to be 156. And he goes, well, 172. I said, oh, thank you, Lord. So I set a record in 1997 that in a span of January 30th to April, I went from 190 to heavyweight to 180 to 165 to 172 and touched every single weight class for at least one fight.
5 weight classes.
Well, it just goes to show that it's better to come in healthier than to train.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I heard that when it was not you lost his first fight against BJ10, that he was like passed out in the elevator the day before that from he had cut too much weight, so I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't hear as much about right now, but I mean, a couple years ago, it was getting really bad with some of the situations with weight cutting, and there was at least one person who died in the weight cut that made the news, I think like a year or two ago. But it seems like lately, like with the UFC having that Performance Institute and stuff like that, where they can help fighters out, they're having less of an issue with it in recent years. But it can be a big factor. I lost a pound and a half in 15 minutes one time for a wrestling tournament in high school. That was probably my best performance there.
One of the ones that my dad and I were talking about a couple years ago, we were watching a fight, and so we were watching the fight. It was on ESPN. This was before the pandemic. This was probably around 2016 or 2017. And main event, they're like, I'm sorry to say, our main event canceled tonight. Our main event fighter was trying so hard to make weight. He was in the sauna for 4 hours.
Yikes.
In that 4 hours, or no, 2 hours, I'm sorry. In that 2 hours, he lost a quarter of a pound because he was so dehydrated. Now, I know when I was in that sauna one of that very last pound, two of my teammates locked me in and said, we're not letting you out for 15 minutes. You got 1 pound to go. And I was hallucinating. I was literally seeing things, shapes, colors, and then I had to walk up to my dorm because I left my mouthpiece up there. And I got to the one hill, I saw my friend, and I said, listen, I put my arm around her, and I said, walk me up this hill because I don't have the strength to do it by myself. This fighter sat in the sauna for 2 hours, lost 1/4 pound. They had to call off the fight, rush him to the hospital. They said 8 bags of fluid, so they were confident that he was out of the woods. And my dad looked at me, and now I was 40 years old, long past my fighting days. He looked at me and he goes, well, thank God you never did anything that stupid. And I looked back at him, I said, is that a challenge? Because I can out-stupid anybody any day of the week.
Right. That's crazy.
So, James, tell us a little bit about working with George St. Pierre. I know I just saw a clip of him saying that he's never coming back, so it's official. But what do you think about his career and his story?
Yeah. Well, he's a super humble guy, really nice. And actually, I would say, almost like in person, when you meet him, like almost kind of shy, which is interesting. And I think that he's one of those guys that, when the spot, I mean, obviously he's an intelligent fighter and he has a great camp and really good people who advise him as well. And he has a great approach to things. But I think he's one of those people where he rises to the occasion under the spotlight. And you know how it is. There's guys that are amazing in the gym, but that crushes them. And then there's guys like that where there's a spotlight and they actually perform better. They're like more in the zone, and I think that's one of his big attributes.
Yeah.
But no, he's a super nice guy, and I had to wait in the pool outside his condo while he was like sleeping with a girl or whatever and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
definitely gets the limit.
Yeah, well, back when I was researching science, I talked to a couple of people connected to Chuck Liddell. And you want to talk about some legendary feats of sexual appetite. Oh, my God. The story with him, the best story I heard about him was, it was kind of funny because later on we had that John Jones story where we realized that they don't test for cocaine. And if you do get busted for cocaine, they're not even allowed to tell anybody. So, like, this was before any of that even was instituted, it was way before any of that stuff, but apparently Chuck Liddell loved the stuff, and he was always with a minimum of 2 girls in his hotel room, and the trainer that used to work with him told me, yeah, that guy never touches Zions. He's never ingested a single scoop of any products, but he was a millionaire sponsor. They were the first sponsor to offer a fighter $1 million for a sponsorship, and it was him. And he factored big into the breakup of the whole company too, because they were trying to keep him on and they couldn't afford it. But some crazy stories there.
Yeah, I heard that he used to have like women waiting outside the hotel room, but they wait on.
Yeah, he was nuts. Loved it. He settled down now though, but thankfully he retired. Settled down a little bit, but
yeah, I guess they will do that.
Next thing you know, we'll be seeing on those Nugenics commercials.
Yeah.
But we actually have
saved up his money
an expert too on that kind of stuff. Tom Padgett's on the broadcast here. He writes a lot about the supplements, so I'm sure he might want to ask you about that aspect of the weight loss situation.
Sure. Well, James, you brought back a lot of memories with MMA.TV. And that's, I was on back in the late 90s. I mean, that was the ages. And just flashing back on how different things were back then. Like I said, you could just reach out. A lot of the fighters would post a few days later, and they'd respond to everyone's post. It was such a different world then. But Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you on the GS because I watched it, seen it, when it came out, and hey, what a small world! How cool it is to be talking with the FBI. I mean, you really did humanize him. I mean, showed him in a lot of different contexts, and just outstanding job on that.
Well, thanks, I appreciate it. And did you see it in Vegas when we had the premiere, or when did you see it?
No, this was probably 6 months afterwards, I think.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's, and, the thing is with that is that David Milazzo as well. And, of course, at the end of it, he comes to the point where he ended up coming back to fight, but in entry, he essentially retires because he had lost the fight and he had these anxiety problems. And it's interesting doing these type of films because the stuff you want a lot of times is what people don't want to show. So yeah, I remember he actually lost the fight, and they were taking him, and then the other producers and stuff, they're like, what do we do? And I said, we go to the hospital and we film him. And he didn't want us to film him, but we insisted, and then he didn't want that scene in the film because I think he thought it made him look weak. And he was really pissed at the film, but then when we had this premiere in Vegas, the same weekend there was like MMA awards, and he there, and there was a bunch of fighters and stuff that obviously attended. It was like a red carpet deal. So when he was able to, when that scene came out, and there was afterwards, Ray Seffo and all these fighters were saying like, how that scene touched them and all this stuff, because that's the human. And then he called me up afterwards and thanked me for having the scene in there. But it's very challenging because people feel embarrassed, but those scenes are the most humanizing that maybe somebody might feel, makes them look weak, is what people identify with. And amazing the kind of support that he got from that, and people that, sort of thanked him for talking about anxiety and for talking about these fears.
Yeah, probably one of my best dramatic interview moments myself was with Christy Martin when she described how her husband attacked her and almost killed her. And she actually, got emotional about it. And then actually they've done a documentary since then that's, brought it all back. But she's had to go and get up on the stand and give testimony to put him in jail too. So I'm sure that kind of helped to just keep telling that story over and over again about what she faced and overcame. But what a story. I've always admired the fighters who hang out and train in Vegas, because when I lived there for a couple years, I got up to my heaviest weight ever. I think I was up pushing 250 because of all the damn fast food places around town. There's not a single fast food place they don't have in Vegas. Yeah. Unreal. But in your situation with the body transformation stuff, do you take supplements yourself, or do you recommend supplements, or do you rather people do it all natural?
I do take supplements, but like crazy. Mostly like protein powder and like vitamin C and things like that. Like I don't know. It's like there's a time when I took like a bunch of stuff, and I honestly think that most of it's food, and getting your stuff from food is probably the best thing.
Right.
But some things it's difficult, especially people vegan and stuff like that, or have specialized diets. But it's very hard unless it's an actual drug, I think, for something to make a super difference. And that's unfortunately, like when we were younger, our generation, that was kind of the trick, was to sell you the supplement, have the bodybuilder that drugged up on the cover, and that was kind of a trick, but you didn't know that, right? So I got sucked when I was a teenager where I was taking these different vitamins and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, this is going to get me ripped, but really it was just the workouts and the diet most of it. But you know, it's hard when you're in a hurry. Sometimes you need a protein bar or a protein shake, you know, and vitamins can help it. But I think it's difficult unless you're on, you know, drugs to really have like a dramatic difference in a particular substance. You know, there's not really that magic powder that you can take.
Right.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, yeah, I do the protein powder. I take some chewables for like the immune now because of the COVID. You know, elderberry and stuff like that, and vitamins here and there. But the number one thing that I used to take when I was boxing was chromium picolinate. And my dad had turned me on to that. He just basically told me that it burns fat and builds muscle. And I tried the creatine for a little while when I was coaching boxing, not when I was actually competing. And I took a couple ripped fuels one time for boxing, but it was like after I pissed, a half an hour later, it was done. Like the effects were gone, so I stopped using that. But that's about all I've used over the years. And I've had good results. I find it's just, you know, the number one thing for weight loss for me is running. You know, you have to run at least a mile a day to really get your weight off when you have a slow metabolism. And I do. So if I don't run, like I could hit the bag for an hour every day and yeah, I'll get some good muscles, but I'll still have the pot belly. So to get that real stubborn fat off, I think you have to get your heart rate up and get your breath strained and, you know, put in that road work. But everybody has their own way.
Yeah. Well, for us, we've kind of found it's the cardio and the weight training and the diet. Because the thing with the training is, you know, you don't want to just be skinny fat, so you want the muscle on there to burn fat as well. And that seems to be kind of the magic formula that works.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of funny because, like, the only time I did an organized weightlifting program was football in high school. I did 1 year in freshman year, and then I got away from weights because I had heard some clip where Angelo Dundee, who used to train Ali, said, you know, if you lift too much weights, you shorten your reach. So I had always stayed away from weights. I would do the punch weights, you know, like the 1 or 2 pound little hand weights, but other than that, I kind of stayed away from it. But I found just push-ups and sit-ups. I mean, it was part of the curriculum anyway for boxing, anywhere you went. But push-ups and sit-ups make a huge difference if you do at least 100 of them each every day. You're gonna see results. It's like guaranteed. So I mean, I kind of just.
Well, yeah. I mean, my doctor would say that he didn't do any weight training at that point in time, which is true, I guess. But he would be doing all kinds of calisthenics, right? He'd be doing pull-ups and push-ups and all the stuff you're talking about.
Right.
He's doing resistance training one way or the other anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just using his body weight as the weight, you know, pushing his 200 plus pounds up, you know, doing the cross. They said, like, Mike Tyson was one of the last true old school fighters. They said he'd be good for a $20 million fight, you know, which is obviously long before the Mayweathers going for the $100 million purses. But back then, even, I mean, that's just a huge amount. But, like, unheard of back then. Mike Tyson was going to fight Michael Spinks. He was getting $22 million. And he was going, and all he was doing is going into his training camp with a heavy bag, a speed bag, a jump rope, and his own natural body for the resistance. And that was old school. Yeah. That's crazy.
Now, James, how do people get involved with this radical body transformation program that you do? Like, is there a website or something like that you can direct people to in a process that you can explain?
Yeah, radicalbodytransformations.com, or on Instagram you can write, because I answer that, and it's at Radical Body Transformations. And we have the show you can apply for. We can put you with coaches. Like we have coaches that seems to be very effective. That's actually over everything. I mean, they create a program for people, like in terms of like training and all of that. But actually having a coach seems to be the most effective in these type of situations because in many ways, not only are they guiding in terms of the aspects of fitness, but even mentally, like keeping people on task and checking in with people, very important. So we do that, and we have these competitions as well that people can do.
Awesome. And from what I read, basically these people show up to the pageant type of atmosphere at the contest that you have the public event for, and they have a before picture, and then they get up on stage and show you what they look like now. Is that how it goes?
It's different. It's different than like a bodybuilding contest. What happens is that we have their before picture on the big screens, and then we start reading their story, which, as I articulate, and then they walk out, and that's their new body. So that's like the reveal, which is pretty cool, and that's what they're judged. So it's a very neat thing because you have people that they, over the last 2 years or whatever the amount of time is, have every day, sticking to a diet, sticking to training, overcome their own internal demons, and here they are on stage. So it's like they're much more appreciative than maybe like a bodybuilder would be, because it's like they have a forum to celebrate what they've done in a different way that they normally wouldn't have, and they usually have overcome a lot of things, so they're often very humble people. It's really cool to see that. I mean, it may not mean a lot in terms of like you may look at a woman and she's still overweight, but she's lost like 100 pounds, and it's like a big deal for her to be able to walk out, and even the fear of like walking out in front of people.
Yeah. Well, we had a guy named Sean Jordan on our show, one of the UFC's heavyweights, back when we talked to him, and he was funny because he said, I don't even like to take my shirt off when I go to a pool party, so to go into the octagon without a shirt on was a big thing for him. Even the guys that are healthy and have a little extra weight have that fear of showing themselves in public.
Well, we have such an Instagram culture right now that people are looking at filtered people and they're assuming everybody looks like that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's true. That's sad. Nobody puts away natural anymore.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of me, like the times people will see me in life, I'm a lot smaller than they expect. Because actually, to be like lean in terms of like your body fat's low, and you like if you're wearing a shirt or whatever, you usually don't look that big, like compared to what I think. So I think that people's perceptions are all off these days, or whatever, of what they expect from people, and anybody can make a change, but you also have to be realistic and not too hard on yourself and beat yourself up. A lot of times you can still have some extra fat and be real. And it's true. There's a lot of times it's the way your body is designed. Some people, they'll eat, they'll go to a buffet, they'll break the buffet, eat 6 dishes of ice cream, a whole pie, a cake, drink a 6-pack of beer. They're ripping that. I sniff a pizza and I gain 5 pounds, right? My body has always been thick. It's always looked soft around the middle, but at the same time, I boxed pretty well, and I was always in good shape. When I did, I didn't look it. I looked more like I was, like a heavier set guy. Oh, he's going to be out of gas in 2 minutes, and I'm running circles around you. Another point of perspective, we went to a fight card about 6 months ago down in Philadelphia, and brought some of my friends. They watch a lot of fights with me, but they've only gone to a handful of cards, and this
4th or 5th row. Great seats, small venue. And we all went out, to like the lobby. We were always going to grab a beer. And a fighter walked by that I knew. He trained at my old gym. And I elbowed my one friend, and I said, hey, see this kid here? I said, he's the one that I showed you the clip of that fight ago. And my friend looked at him and goes, dude, he's small. I said, bro, he fights at 118 pounds. I don't think you should be expecting to see Shaquille O'Neal here. What do you think he's going to be? He's 118 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
True.
we're getting on in time here. We're almost at the over the 45-minute mark. But you got any final thoughts, or you want to tell people where they can find you online, your social media and all that stuff, James?
Well, having me on, and it brought back a lot of memories. And they can go to James Hergott, HERGOTT.com to go to my website if they want to contact me, or like I said, radicalbodytransformations.com.
Awesome. Well,
I got banned from Instagram because of my nipples.
Oh,
Apparently the AI can't tell between male and female nipples.
oh my
A lot of
God.
shirtless pictures.
Yeah.
And it picked it up and blocked me. So I just.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I hear about all these people getting blocked for all these ridiculous things. The only time I've ever been flagged for anything I posted was on Facebook, and I put it on a meme group called Sarcastic Memes. And it was one of those 2-picture memes, and the top says, I'm disgusted with this group. And it says me, and then it says I'm disgusted with this group, and then it says also me, and it shows the full picture, and the guy has like a boner in his shorts. So it's like saying slyly, like, I really like this group, but they thought it was too sexual when the guy had shorts on. I didn't get a ban over it though. I just got flagged.
I recently got in trouble on Facebook for a comment. A friend of mine that I've known for a decade now was jumping into his pool, strained or tore his calf muscle. And obviously, I'm not finding joy in my friend getting hurt. He's my friend. But at the same time, we're guys and we bust balls. So whenever we have parties together, we always watch all the WWE and AEW wrestling shows. And we're all big wrestling fans. And our one friend, his wife, is a die-hard fan, and she'll always tackle this guy and put him in a camel clutch or whatever. And we always find funny, and it's all good fun. So when he says, I really hurt my calf, I said, hey, Angie, next time you see Matt, hit him with the AJ Styles calf crusher. There is no threat of violence in that. AJ Styles is a wrestler we all like. That's one of his finishing moves. They said I was threatening violence. and I tried to appeal it. They didn't accept my appeal. And I said, when I wrote the appeal, I said, Matt is a wrestling fan. Matt is my friend. Angela is a wrestling fan. Angela is my friend. We are making a sarcastic comment regarding a wrestling move, which is a form of entertainment. We each stand by our decision. I'm like, you're a bunch of dicks. I got afraid to write something tonight because a friend of mine's working out. I said, hey, man, I got this great drill for boxing, and you hit the bag so many times. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to hit the bag, and you say that I'm threatening an inanimate object by being punched 500 times in a 3-minute time frame.
It's possible. I had a coach that she said in a public comment, I'm going to kick your ass to her husband over something and she got banned for a week.
Yeah. You know what got me banned one time? I took a 3-day ban in 2017 for videos I posted in 2012 and 2014 respectively. So they waited almost 3 years.
Yeah, I've been noticing that. They find stuff years old to get you on sometimes.
The one they said, the one they said to me, they said, well, you can't post this because it's a license thing, and the performer is not getting paid for this. Well, first of all, I was the performer. I was singing karaoke, and second, second of all, I don't think Elvis is going to rise from the grave and demand his royalties.
He's the number one dead celebrity in earnings.
Christmas.
He's got the most. Anyway. So, James, if you have any press releases or anything to promote, be sure to shoot those over to my email, and I'll get them on the Fight News Unlimited website, too.
Oh, sure. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. And we love talking to you. We'll definitely keep you in mind. We'll wait maybe a year or two and see if we can get you back on to talk about your progress, because I love this story about what you're doing, and I definitely think it's just going to grow and get better and better. So I'm glad you figured out this was a big thing, and that you're inspiring a lot of people with this. It sounds like it's a real labor of love for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not every day that you can do something and have the reward, and not just financially, but have the reward of somebody saying, like, this is changed my life, and I used to be like this, and I was depressed, and I was overweight, and now I have I can do this and I can do that, and it's super humbling to be part of that, and you feel like you're making the world a little bit better rather than a little bit worse. So
Yeah.
Working that for.
Yeah, I worry about that every now and then. I'm running a Fight News website. I'm promoting violence. I kind of feel like sometimes it's not the best thing I could be doing, but I just have such a passion for fighting. I look at it like, these people are facing their worst fear. Everybody's worst fear is either public speaking or getting in a fight. So it's and it's been therapeutic for me in my career. So I haven't done a lot of it, but even just practicing, it's very therapeutic. Get your anger out, and, a lot of benefits.
James, you know what I tell people when I train them? When I go to teach somebody about boxing, especially if they're younger or a teenager and they come to work out with me, I'll say, listen, I said, I know where you're coming from. I was in your shoes 30 years ago, and I was a good kid, but I was not angry, but I was a kid that wanted to do something, and I wanted somebody to notice me. I played football. I wasn't that good. I wasn't a good student. I wasn't the best looking kid. I wasn't prom king. I wasn't anything. And I wanted to be something where somebody said, hey, look at that guy. And what did I do? I used to get in fights because I thought maybe someone would say, hey, look at that guy. And years later, I realized how stupid that was. And then I said, you know what? I channeled that into boxing. And, there were nights I would come home from the gym. Did I want to go out and run the streets? No, I was exhausted. I wanted to go to bed. And I said, you know what? That heavy bag tonight, I said, that heavy bag ain't running in a gang. It don't carry a gun. It ain't calling the cops. I'm not going to have to sit in front of a judge on Monday and face assault charges. That bag took everything I had till I had no more anger in me tonight. And when I go back tomorrow, it's going to be there waiting for me. And if I'm angry again, you know what? It's the best therapy out there. It's therapeutic. It's, the best stress reliever in the world, and 100 pounds of leather and canvas. And I tell that to kids down there. I said, you know what? I learned confidence in myself, and I said, you know what? I don't got to prove anything to anybody. If I have to prove something to you and show you that I'm somebody, you know what? You can come buy a ticket to see me. I don't got to do it on the street. You come buy a ticket and you can see me. And I believe that.
That is a great message, and there's a lot of people that, with boxing even, they were taken off the street. So maybe they'd be robbing people or something like that if they didn't harness that energy. So I think it is a positive thing overall. The actual having a career as a fighter, I think there's the risk of brain injury and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of kids that are real rambunctious kids, and they need to channel it some way, and better that than a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Well, I had a kid that I trained about 10 years ago. Mom saw me. I was at a local business that I frequented, and one day she sat there and she had two twins, boys. They were around 16, and the one boy had been left back in school, so his brother was always ahead of him, and he had an inferiority complex. and he wanted something, to, make himself feel positive, And the one that she goes, I would love to get Jeff into boxing. She goes, not that cardio boxing and not kickboxing or none of that, not jiu-jitsu, old school boxing, but I don't know where to take him. And the one woman that worked there, she goes, Tony, they come full time. She goes, oh, the real funny guy, the guy that came in here dressed up as Halloween is Dennis Rodman. And she goes, yeah, that guy. He's a former two-time All-American, and he's a trainer, right? And came to me, and I looked at him the first time, and you could see he barely wanted to say a word. He was so bashful, and I could tell he had no self-esteem. And I said, you know what, Bob? He was calling me up saying, hey, Tone, did you watch that fight on TV tonight? I saw that one thing you were teaching me, and I saw how that guy did it, and he knocked that guy out, and it was so cool. And I still communicate with him from time to time. He never took a fight. I told him if he wanted to, I would get him some sparring, and we could eventually do it, but he never out. He just wanted to feel some confidence. And James, before I let you go, the last thing I'll say is a few months ago, I went up to my alma mater, done the 5 weight classes, and I went up as a guest coach. And we were standing in the one ring in the gym, which was a ring gotten out of the local state penitentiary, because our coach, who was my assistant coach back then, was one of the athletic directors of the state prison. Back when I was in school and he was doing that, they used to bring us students in to spar with the inmates. That was not enjoyable. And the inmates used to hell out of us. And I know because I got my ass kicked. And the first time that happened, I was 18 years old. And I looked at these kids and I said, guys, this might not be the exact happened, but I'm going to tell you a story of Rocky State. And the coach says, no, Tony, that is the exact ring. I said, well, guys, I want you to walk in this corner right here. This neutral corner right here. I was 18 years old. The guy that I was in there with looked like he could scare Mike Tyson. And I said, he sensed like that I was scared, and he jumped on me, and he was beating on me. And it was like the whole world was crumbling on me. And I kept looking over at my corner, praying they would throw the towel. And the coach said, no, there's still left in you. I didn't think there was. But he believed in me. And I remember in that corner, and it felt like 6 bloods were landing on me in succession. And I said, man, I'm just gonna give up. And I started slumping down towards the canvas, and I could have that mental vision of everybody that I was letting down, family, some long since were gone, but I could feel them. And I said, you know what? No, I can't let them down. I can't. Throw your best left hook, and I threw it. And I said, if it was a Rocky movie, this is where I score the knockdown, or I cut him open, and I go on the offensive. I think I hit him on the shoulder, but I gained his respect, showing that I had. You know what he said to me afterwards? He goes, you know what, kid? I tested you, and you got hard. And I told those guys, I said, listen, in this very corner right here where I'm standing, in 1994, go down and be a quitter or stand up and fight back. And if I didn't stand up and fight back, I don't know where my life would be today.
Yeah, no, it's an important statement, and there's a lot of fighters that have bullied as children and stuff like. That's why they went into martial arts or whatever it was. So I do think it's an admirable thing that you guys do.
Awesome. Well, it was great connecting with you, and
I really appreciate it, guys. It's been a blast.
We will keep in touch for sure. Awesome stuff.
Awesome. Enjoy it, guys.
Keep up the good work.
Have a great evening.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
You too. All right. So I guess that's all, unless you guys got any other tidbits. We'll wrap it up. A nice little hour-and-a-half show tonight.
Me and my normal smart assery,
No, it's good.
To train again tomorrow, and then goof off this weekend.
Awesome.
Took a look at me. I was talking to my one friend's wife, who's also Dominic's godmother. We're fellow godparents in crime. One of us is the smart, responsible one. The other one's the funny, stupid one. I try to say we don't know which one's which, but then she rolls her eyes at me. Leads me to believe she wants to be funny and stupid. I don't know. So I messaged her today because we're all going to this minor league game on. And, she's bringing her new baby, and, we're all going to be there. And So I said, yeah, I've been working out really hard. And I had a bug on, Sunday to Monday, and I worked out and I passed out. Oh my God, be careful. I said, yeah, we got the Italian festival in 3 weeks. Just, so I got to train for it. So what are you going to train for a festival? This is an Italian festival. Do you know what they have at Italian festivals?
Right. Lots of food.
Do you know? Well, they got that. Tom, do you know what they have at Italian festivals?
Are you talking about food, England, or?
They have Italian girls.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah. No, they have beautiful Italian girls.
So they're going to have some music there. I'm going to be in my tank tops. It's hardcore. I'm either going to wear my hardcore Italians tank. I couldn't get one for 5 years, and they finally restocked them. I bugged the website for about the last 4 years. I'm like, yo, you gonna make that tank? You have it in blue and charcoal right now. No. Yeah, I need it in black. Well, we're got another summer line coming out. I don't want your other summer line. I want core black tank top with the red, white, and green skull. And then this year I get an email, oh, we got this summer sale going on. I said, for shits and giggles, let me click on it. Got it. My dad's like, did you order one? I'm like, no. He said, why not? I'm like, because I ordered two. God knows if they run out of stock again when they're going to have it back. So, hardcore Italian tank top, and I'm going to have my wristbands on, my bandana, and then someone's like, you're not going to do that other thing you talked about. I said, oh, what? Having braid mullet with red, white, and green beads. They said, oh, you're not going to do that. I said, I might. In fact, I think I am now.
That's
I got a
fine.
girl my hair for me.
I got another little story here I just put on my phone. Top Facebook post from a girl named Daniela Argentino. She says, I'm back from my 24-hour ban. All I have to say is F you Facebook and your stupid community standards that make no sense. Next time, I'll say I acquired my brother's dog instead of using the steal word. Absolutely ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
And then somebody commented,
I have one friend.
I have been banned so many times, I have forgotten. And she replies, wait, what? You don't even post questionable things.
Yeah, I know people that have gotten, whatever. One girl that I know, the literally nicest girl in the world, and once again, she's one of my Italian friends, so you know how we talk, especially, when we had Philly type slang, like, all kinds, brother, whatever, kick your
Here we are again.
That's how we talk, right? So one of our friends posted on her thing that, girl, get back to me or I'm going to kick your ass. Oh my God, you're getting banned for whatever. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, you need to learn there is a thing. Hey Rich, you and I are going to have that boxing match 25 years later. I'm kicking your ass tonight. Oh my God, tell me you're getting banned because you're threatening violence. It's like, the one time I was like, yeah, a friend of mine, she got the 24-hour ban. I'm like, what'd she do? I'm like, well, to strike another human being in a kicking or in a football type of
Control over my account.
motion with her
account.
foot. So basically, she said she was going to strike her friend in her gluteus in a striking motion with her foot. So basically, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. Okay, you gotta be slick about that stuff. Iceman is banned again.
Yeah.
I found that out from old Tommy Rainone. He said he was gonna bring 25 cheeseburgers over so Scully would be not bored without his Facebook.
I'm going to look him up right now. I wonder what he got banned for this time.
I don't know. But boy, Tommy loves it. He's posting like a new thing every day.
Oh, sure.
We still have to get those two on surreptitiously, but we'll have Iceman on officially, and then we're gonna have to get Tommy to key in at some point, or maybe we'll pre-record Tommy.
The last thing I see from Scully is the band list.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm looking at the band list from July 9th. I see other people are posting things. so it doesn't look like he's posting anything. So let's see. What did he write on July 9th that could have been so horrible? Endless edition. There are people in this world who go to karate classes, quote unquote, and let some guy who's extremely overweight with a huge beer belly convince him he can knock them all out.
That was his last post?
There waving his hand without even making contact. To be that weak mentally, you and the fat guy in the white outfit and black belt around his waist are banned for life. Well, Scully, yeah, you're banned for life.
Well, apparently he's been very busy on Instagram, because I don't think they, even though Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company, they don't share bans for whatever reason. You know, if you're banned on one, you're not banned on the other. So we'll see, but it sucks because you know Scully does so many different things. Like, you know, he obviously does the stuff fundraising for the fighters and all that, which is awesome. But he gains his following and keeps people interested by just coming up with stuff like his banned thing. Like, this is banned from now on, you know. And he'll come up with like unique situations that, you know, certain people do things that piss you off, and he'll always come up with something new. And just his ability to communicate with people, they know that, you know, if they comment on it, he's going to communicate back. And I don't even think he knows he's doing it, but just through the principles of internet marketing, what you're doing is when you post something that people are talking in the comments about, you're making that post even more popular with every comment that's posted. So it's like,
you know what? I was gonna
genius.
comment on him the other day, and I totally forgot, because he writes a lot of like behind the scenes things. And one thing he wrote last week, and this is something that I mentioned on the air a few times, you know, where guys, you know, going to the gym, and like you kind of get good when you're at the gym, even if you're a guy that's not competing or you're fighting for a world title. You know, those guys in the gym have like a respect for each other, for the most part. And like I said, I remember, I'm going back 25 years ago. I was 20, 21 years old, maybe 22. And, you know, we'd be down at the gym and we'd be working out, and, you know, we'd be sparring and all. And there was a kid, maybe 14, maybe 15. This kid had to weigh 300 plus pounds. Big, heavy-set kid, not an ounce of muscle on him. And you could tell he had no self-esteem. And he walked in and he wouldn't make anybody because he felt like he didn't belong. And all he wanted to do was hit that bag and maybe lose a few pounds, maybe feel better. And I can still see him to this day. And I remember he'd go in there, and they'd put the gloves on him, and he'd get the one bag close to the mirrors, and he would just throw them for 3 minutes at a time. Not hard, not fast, not fancy, but just 1, 2, 1, 2. And he was working, and he was sweating, he was getting a good workout, and he would do it 7, 8, 9, 10 reps. And I'll never forget this. The one day I was in the ring. You know, I just finished a 4 or 5 round sparring session, just finishing his work on the bag, and he came over to where the table was right next to the ring, and they were taking his gloves off, and he picked up a water bottle, and he was getting a drink, and he just looked up at me, and he held the water bottle up, and I smiled, and I nodded back at him. No verbal communication at all, and he got up on the ring. I waved him up. He stood up on the ring, and he gave me a drink of water. I said, "Thanks, buddy," and I gave him a pound. But he like beamed, like, "Oh my God, I've finally been accepted." And I don't remember his name, and I remember what he looks like. And every time I see him in the gym, he didn't talk to anybody, but I'd always nod to him. I'm like, "Hey," and I would just kind of, you know, and I'd walk up and give him a pound. And that was something small. And then the other thing I wanted to tell Scully about, because he appreciated when I told him that story, because it's something he could relate to, you know. And a lot of stuff he writes is stuff I relate. And the other one, and Tom, you will get a kick out of this. We had a guy in our gym. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. I think he ended up getting killed, drive-by or whatever, years ago. Nice enough guy. I don't think he had the mentality to be a fighter. So we were training. I already had a couple years under my belt, and I'd already been fighting, you know, all around the country. And so this guy, he was relatively new. You know, built pretty like an Adonis, And the coaches were saying, yo, it's time for you to start getting in the ring and spawn a little bit. You just stop being a bag beater. You know, you're learning, but you've got to get in there. And then he pulls me aside one day. I don't know why coach wants me to spar. You know, I don't know if I'm ready to spar, man. I don't know. And he's like, and he's packing, like he's like hyperventilating. I'm like, no, man. I said, when you're ready, you know, you'll get in there, but you've got to get ready to get in there, man. You've been in here. You know, time for you to take the next step. And I'm trying to, you know, talk to him in a calm way or whatever. So a couple days later, he has his first sparring session. He must have done well because he stepped out of the ring. He didn't get carried out of the ring. And after that first sparring session, he was running around the gym. And he was ready to drop, or he was ready to fight for the light heavyweight championship of the world. And he was going to challenge Roy Jones. Because Roy Jones was the light heavyweight champion. You know, whatever. And Roy Jones, I'm coming for you, baby. And you know what? I'm buying everybody in this gym. I'm buying this guy a Cadillac. I'm buying this guy a Tone. I'm buying you a Bentley or whatever. He just did 3 rounds with the ring for the first time. And now he wants to fight Roy Jones. Everybody is all Cadillac.
Nice.
Slow down, young man.
Right. Well, that's a perfect transition, Tony, to this little story that I just found in BoxRec. We're going to have to find out what this is all about. But this is the name. From London, in the UK, there's a fight card. Actually pretty decent in the main event part of it. Or the main card, I should say. But on the undercard is a guy who's a super lightweight. He's 3-0, and his name is Sonny Liston Ali.
That's not any good, yeah.
He's fighting a guy named Chris Adaway, Adaway. Chris Adaway is probably going to make him 4-0 because Adaway's record is 10-72-4. So Sonny Liston Ali is probably going to get his 4th win on Saturday. How about that for a name, though? I have to find out how he got that. Sonny Liston.
You know, before we had James on the air tonight, we were saying that, you know, a couple days ago, the 13th anniversary of Arturo Gotti's death. In my eyes, his murder, but you know, they're never gonna be able to prove that. And I'm making air quotes with my hands right now. Before we finish tonight, I do want to say a few things. You know, because he was someone I really looked up to. I shared my article again the other day, the one that I wrote. Well, it was crazy because I originally wrote the article in 2000 after his last fight against Alfonso Gomez, and it was more like a thank you for the great memories, wish you well in your retirement. Years later, almost to today, he's gone. And I kind of rewrote the forward, and I said, you know, there's no better tribute that I could write than this article. Just going to add to the forward and just kind of say, like, hey, this is an article I wrote 2 years ago for a guy that, you know, basically was just tragically taken from us. And one of the things I said in there, in the forward part of it, I said, one of the things that's always tough is when you learn that your heroes are mortal men and they are subject to the same pratfalls and mistakes and flaws that we all are. You know, they're not Supermen, you know, and they are human and they do make human errors. And, you know, the other thing I put in there, I said, when Gotti had his last fight against Alfonso Gomez, took, you know, a pretty bad beating in that fight, and they stopped it. Larry Hazard, who was the New Jersey State Athletic Commissioner, said, I don't think I can license to fight anymore. I can't, in good conscience, you know, subject, you know, him to, you know, possible health issues. You know? And I said, looking back on it now, in that ring against guys, and I picked up some guys that had you know, beaten them fights, guys like Mayweather who, you know, beat him, De La Hoya who stopped him, Mickey Ward who he had those 3 tremendous fights with. I said, being in the ring, 3 of those combined was actually safer for him than outside the ring, because he had that penchant for the nightlife. He had the penchant for he had the penchant of maybe having was a little bit of a loose cannon side to him. And they said, like, there'd be in a fight, and he wouldn't want to go to the hospital to get stitches. He would take away from his nightclub time. He'd say, listen, I'll get stitched tomorrow. Put them butterflies on me so I can go to the nightclub. They say he'd be on the nightclub and he'd be bleeding on the floor. And when I shared that article, a friend of mine, like I was saying before we got James on the air, Dave Brunelli, who was a heavyweight fighter out of Philadelphia, was like, yeah, I was at that fight with Gomez, and he goes, and it was, he goes, you could tell he was a shell of himself. And I said, I was at the fight the year before against Baltimore, and I said, you could tell in there, like, he couldn't in hand, and you could tell he just couldn't sustain his natural ability at 147. He just couldn't do it. Once he couldn't make 140 anymore, he was kind of done. And in a way, I wish that he would have went out on that fight with Thomas Damgaard from, I think he was from the Netherlands or Denmark, who was 38-0, 28 knockouts, had a pristine record, but he wasn't, of that caliber fighter. He had fought a lot of guys over in Denmark, and he wasn't, of Gotti's caliber. And Gotti came on this great virtuoso performance, and he knocked Damgaard out, and it looked so good. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe there is lightning in that bottle one more time. And it's like, hey, that Carlos Baltimore, he doesn't look all that impressive. So, he's big, he's strong, but he's average. I bet you Gotti can beat him. And I'm sure that's what they all thought. I bet you Gotti can beat him. And then he took that beating, so there wasn't really much left in him. And then that night he fought Gomez, I was going to the Italian festival, the same one I talked about a little bit ago. I was going there, and I was like, we can only stay for 2 hours because Gotti's fighting tonight. That's like a cult. You got to be home to watch Gotti fight. You don't know how much longer you're going to get him. And we sped home that night, and we put on that fight with Baltimore, and we watched it. Like they said, they had that interview afterwards, and Larry Merchant was talking about how he would save rare glass and hourglasses, because if I could have Arturo Gotti's hourglass in my collection, that's one I would always treasure. Max Kellerman was crying. The only one that was smiling was Gotti. He's like, you know what? You almost tell he felt relieved. And then 2 years later, I was going to the exact same Italian fest. We were on our way there, and we were literally 5 minutes away. And I get a text message: Arturo Gotti found dead in Brazil. What is that? And this is when you had like the old school phones with the keypads on them and shit. And I'm trying to look up on the internet. You like, oh my god, I think it was on a flip phone. And I'm trying to pull up the internet and wait for it to load. And then finally I was like, oh my god, no, unfortunately he's dead. And I see my friends, like, telling you okay? I said, Arturo Gotti. My one friend that went to his Baltimore fight with me looked at me and goes, you're lying to me. Dude, I'm not lying to you. Here's the text. Here's the article. And we went to the bar that night, and we're like, yo, man, we all poured a shot. We're like, yeah, this is the Thunder. And 13 years. 13 years.
Well, he's not forgotten. Although he is gone from this world, he will live in infamy. Well, not infamy, in his fame. For his feats on this earth, and sometimes that's all you can hope for, is to be remembered. And I'm sure that everybody that he had a great impact on feels the same way about his accomplishments and his legacy and all that. And, it's definitely a Hall of Famer for sure. Also, before I forget, our former guest Marcus Bates is fighting in Braintree, Massachusetts this weekend on Saturday, and he's fighting for another title. We joked with him last time, or the only time we had him on the show, about him having the New Hampshire state welterweight title already. So he's got to come back up here to my neck of the woods to defend it, I told him. But he seems like, he's dealing with Michael Reyes, my buddy from Norwich, who I believe is based in Salem, Mass. So he's sticking to Mass under his wing. But Braintree is a place I used to hang out a lot, just about 10 minutes south of Quincy, Mass, where I went to high school. So this is at the Daughtry Gym, which I've never heard of, but he's fighting a guy. Get this, Tony. You won't believe what this guy's name is. It's one H too long. It's Damian David Marciano. Instead of Marciano, there's an H in there. How about that? Marciano. Funny. Small world. So on that note, we will call it a night. Rest in peace, Arturo, and thank you, James Hergott, for a great interview, and we will be posting that separate interview from the show on our other page that I'm still paying for. A big $40 a month, our Blog Talk Radio page, and then we'll put the full show on our regular page, Spreaker.
What about Fight News Unlimited, Rich? Is that still going?
It is. I have not posted to it in like a month. But I have plans. I just was about to go do it this morning, but in the next couple days I will definitely have new stuff up there. But yeah, I've just been dealing with so much other stuff with my legal cases and Plan B justice. I just got a huge story for that. We're talking all the way to the Vatican. We got a scandal going on with a local school here in Center Harbor, New Hampshire. It was what they called an apostolate school, run by this group of Roman Catholics called the Legionaries of Christ. And the school closed in 2015. And after that, it started to come out about all the abuses that happened there. And the Catholic Church actually took it over in 2010. So the Vatican was in control of it in 2010 to, I think, around 2013 or somewhere along those lines. And then they just recently they started to reveal that a lot of their priests were involved in abuse of the students. And the founder of the order, the Legionaries of Christ, I mean, you talk about a bad Catholic. This guy fathered 3 children with 2 different women, was a drug addict, was embezzling money, and abused like 30 different people, including his own kids. And they didn't even kick him out of the Catholic Church at the end. They just told him to just go home and pray. Like, can you believe it? And the crazy thing is, like, all this stuff happened here in Center Harbor, and there's been like 3 local articles written about it. Because there's a couple cases that came up where people sued over the abuse, but they sued in Connecticut instead of suing in New Hampshire, so the judge threw it out. But what's happening is this group is like paying people, okay? So as soon as they find out there's a lawsuit, the lawsuit gets dropped, then make sure there's no other one, these people will go out and pay these victims that come forward. So how are they able to pay these people? Why do they have all this money, I start thinking. So one of my friends points me out to the fact that the school closed in 2015, and you're a tax guy, Tom. This is right up your alley. So why isn't there a record of the owners paying property taxes, since the property is not being used for any religious or non-profit purpose anymore? Come to find out, the abutter to the property runs a farm up there, and he is the director of the planning board. So he obviously does not want the property sold, and thinks if we go to collect taxes from them, they're going to want to sell the property right away to pay the property taxes. Simple solution, right? So it turns out we got secrecy on both sides of the story, and I'm pretty much trying to just insert myself in the middle of it, and I got all kinds of people involved, authorities and everything, like the Board of Tax and Land Appeals is on my side with it. So there's going to be some big stuff coming down the pipeline with that, and I'm actually going to their selectmen's meeting on the 3rd of August to talk about the whole case and what I've uncovered and who I've talked to and all that. So, and at the same time, one of my friends, who was one of my big sources for all the stuff that's already on Plan B Justice, just quit his job with the state. And he's made a lot of contacts in that job that could be very lucrative for us too, if we keep up our partnership with what we've got going on, because he's basically been thinking, this is an amazing thing that we're doing. Like, we're getting all this attention. We're doing good. We've inspired with all the stuff that we've done already. One of the guys that I interviewed for my cooperation with the Attorney General on the story that I've already got on the site, found out that he's basically he's gotten together a bill so that these it's basically a lawyer and an assessment expert, and these two guys are working together to try to screw all the utilities to the point where they pay all the high taxes so that everybody else in town pays less. So long story short, this guy that I interviewed for it and connected to the Attorney General's office because he was a witness, he is the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, so now he's creating a bill to address all this stuff that I brought up. So talk about making a difference. I just wish the state and all these towns that I'm helping red flag these issues would, kick me a few bucks at the end of the day. So we're gonna work together and try to figure out how to monetize this. But he's got 3 weeks left at his day job, and then we're on it. So I might be scaling back a little bit with Fight News Unlimited. I might just devote everything to the show. I mean, why not? Basically, all we're doing is putting out press releases every day and stuff like that on the site. So I'm thinking maybe we'll just make Fight News Unlimited all about broadcasting the show every week, and we'll build the show up. We'll get more good guests, and we'll get some sponsors and stuff like that. And then it'll just be every week, once a week, we'll do the show, and I won't have to worry about posting every day and all that stuff. But I haven't yet decided that's the option, so we're still going to keep up with Fight News Unlimited as much as possible. I've just been slacking. So it is what it is, but big stories just find me, I think. I don't know. Just one of those things that makes me realize I am meant to do this kind of stuff. So we'll keep everybody posted, but yeah. Check tomorrow afternoon. We should have some stuff up on Fight News Unlimited. Alright. Till next week.
All right.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
And that's all, folks.